Well, welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. We are, folks, Zero Dark 30, blasting out of the bunker, bringing you some very important information. It has to do with the biggest threat of all time. Oh yeah, by the way, this is all satire. This is all just humorous, anecdotal, silly-hearted looks at life. And you can decide for yourself whether it's worth watching, whether it's real. You can decide for yourself. You see, I don't censor people that way and tell them what to think. Oh no, that's not my job. That's your job. My job is to bring you the information and let you decide. But yes, all satire nonetheless. Take that, YouTube. Take that, censors, because folks, the biggest threat of all time doesn't come from hordes of barbarians. The biggest threats to life are not individual people. You see, if you are faced with a threat, you can handle it. You can handle a would-be robber, thief, or rapist. You can. It's within your right. It's within your skill set. But John, what if it's a group of people, a gang? A gang can be dealt with by people, right? A small group of people can deal with a gang and take care of the problems. The biggest threat is government. It always has been, and it always will be. It has been from the beginning of time. The moment, right, humanity decided they would form governments, those governments have been used to, threaten and then dispose of the people. Now, threats, right? We have been told by Biden, by Hillary, by Pelosi, by the mainstream media, by social media, by big tech, that democracy is threatened by free speech. Actually, democratic institutions or institutions based on some democratic principles, they are threatened by government. Government is the greatest threat because government is the greatest killer, murderer, and tyrant of all time. Now, let's discuss, shall we, a little bit of history and take a look at this. Let's just say from the Roman Empire after its fall, people were prohibited, forbidden from having the ability to read and write. Only people who were sanctioned, that is, authorized, licensed, permitted by kings and the church were allowed to learn to read and write. How easy is it to learn to read and write? My children were reading books before kindergarten. They had the ability because I spent a little time and read with them. Right? But they used to not allow that. It was prohibited, against the law. Why? To control thought. To control thought. If you had no other way of getting information in your brain than just word of mouth, then you were stuck. You had to wait for someone to tell you what information was real and to act on that. Folks, the Renaissance, right? The printing press was one of the single greatest human inventions of all time. It made the distribution of words. It made the distribution of words so much easier. Right? Because when I speak these words, under normal conditions, they go out and they're silent forever. They can only be heard once. Right? But if you have the printing press, you can write the word down, duplicate it, and distribute it. You can write things on a ledger and distribute it. Distributed ledger. We've heard those words before, but in a meaningful way, right? How do they come to us? Well, the written word, the printed word, the mass printed word. And guess who opposed the printing press? Guess who hated it and went and reviled it and feared it? That's right. That's right. The church and kings, they hated the printing press. Folks, because they couldn't control it. Now, who did actually take steps to control the printing press? Oh, one of the most loved presidents of all time, who I do not care for. His name was Abraham Lincoln. He had his military force go out and stop, consume, cancel, whatever you want to call it, the media, newspapers, for daring to oppose him and his regime. That's right, Abraham Lincoln, folks, censored free speech because it was dangerous. He silenced the printed word so that it couldn't be distributed. Right? Underground newspapers, folks, since the beginning of time, beginning of time with the printing press, underground newspapers distributing information. Right? They've been there, they've done their job, it's worked, and the tyrants hate it. They absolutely hate it. And then, folks, came the telephone. The telephone, a way for you to talk where no one else could listen to what you were saying. You could pass information instantaneously, great distances. The telegraph, the telephone, then television, where you could mass distribute. Radio and then television. Radio and television, mass distribution of opinion. Except the only people who could use it to broadcast their message were those in control and power. So they needed to what? Take that over. Who took it over? Folks, the CIA, the FBI. Who licensed it? The government. Those who are the greatest threat of all time. Governments. They want the power to regulate, to govern, to censor, and control. We, you and I, our little opinions are not threats. Don't buy into that rhetoric. Don't allow them to lie to you, is what I say. Right? We're having to use humor and satire as a form of mass communication because it's just jokes. Right? Wait till they say, well, that's just not funny. We're not allowing that anymore. It's coming, folks. They're going to shut me up eventually. They call things hate crimes, hate speech. Folks, government is hate. Government now is hate. They want to silence everybody. Silence is violence. No, silencing others is violence. You can't force people to talk, but you shouldn't be able to force people to be silent either. The answer to free speech is more free speech. The solution to free speech issues is to allow more free speech. Now, free criminal action? No. Right. Allowing people to commit crimes? No. That's not freedom. Right? And, oh, by the way, and who is allowing crime to persist, to go free, to be unpunished? That's right, the Democrats. Once again, government. Those who want the biggest government are those who want to allow criminal activity and silence the people. Right? They don't want the printing press. They don't want the telephone. They want to stop your telephone. They want to stop text messages. They want to stop Twitter. The mass distribution of information and opinion is what they want to stop. They want to control it so that only their message is real. Just like before the printing press, when king and pope, the secular and religious leaders, only their words were allowed to be spoken. That was true tyranny, true control, absolute slavery, servitude to the words of others. Freedom has never been enjoyed the way we have had it, folks, for the last 100 years. The ability to speak freely and distribute information. And they call it a threat. They're going to continue to call it a threat, to treat it as a threat, and to treat you like a criminal. Because that's what they do, folks. That is exactly what government does. I tell you, what are you going to do about it? Right? This is why I say prep to action. Prep to action. Take action on your own behalf, on the behalf of everyone. Keep speaking, keep talking, sound off, make noise. right? Your ability to communicate with your elected representatives gives you a power that few in human history have had. And if you choose not to exercise it, then it's a loss. You have a chance to govern yourself by directing those who have been authorized, put in place to represent us. That's why they want to silence you and me and everyone, is because they don't want us to have an opinion. They don't want us to have a more informed opinion. They don't want us to be able to communicate with one another. They want to stop emails and stop text messages, intercept them and call it misinformation, and then criminalize misinformation, at least insofar as they can silence, censor, and remove those opinions. There is nothing, folks, more insidious than stopping the free thoughts of another human being. Insidious. Its action alone represents a great tort, a great crime. But the consequences of the silencing of the human mind always results in mass destruction and murder of humankind. Case in point, the Nazis silenced, censored, controlled speech and thought, in the Soviet Union and Communist China. Folks, over 100 million people in the last 100 years have suffered death, not to mention the countless millions that were put in prison, had their souls, the fire of their life, dampened so that they barely burned, right? They existed without existing as themselves because their thoughts were controlled by others. Free your mind. And, folks, prepare your mind. SHTF, the greatest threat is the death of free speech and governments using that power against us. That's what they want, because that's what they want. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, and a plan. That's how you can protect yourself and help correct the injustices that are going on right now. Biden says we're a threat to democracy. Give me a break. We are what free and keep free the democratic institutions that they say they want. They don't want freedom, folks. They don't want free speech. They don't want anything except a 100% control of you and me. I'll see you at the Free for All Friday tonight. You guys be cool. Semper Fi. Godspeed.